Maha ghee. So Maha ghee is an authentic ghee made from the Ghee cow breed, from the milk, and made according to traditional method and according to Vedic principles. So often, especially in, maybe even India now, even, and anywhere, oftentimes ghee is made from just boiling unsalted butter. When I started my Ayurvedic journey, I was really, really shocked that this is what teachers were teaching in the Ayurveda world. And so Nakul, who is the co-host here, had this amazing initiative and motivation and inspiration to bring authentic ghee into the US from Muni Seva Ashram in Gujarat. So at this holistic center, everything is made according to the Vedic principles. And so everything underlying Maha ghee is about source, right? So, which is also where these knowledge circles come in. We really believe in sharing authentic product that can change people's well-being and their life trajectory, which is, I think most people here are really, that's what we're about. We're here to live the most fulfilling life at the end of the day. So how does ghee play a role in that? So at Maha ghee, we're using ghee as a vehicle for this kind of larger mission that we have. And these knowledge circles is a way to really get to the source of things as well. Because as we all know, there's a lot of information in the internet world, a lot of teachings even that may or may not be in the right context. So these circles help to shed a lot of light into the truth of it all. And so today we have Dr. Rammanohar of Amrita School of Ayurveda and Akara, which is a really amazing forthcoming research center that he had. So thank you, Dr. Rammanohar. Your bio is so long, and I just know you are, as an Ayurveda student and a practitioner myself, anytime I listen to you, it just simplifies things for me, and you make things very easy to understand and practical. So thank you for agreeing to be here with us and to enlighten us today.
Yeah, I'm honored to be here.
Great. And so just before we dive in, because, we have limited time, and we want to just a few house rules. Dr. Manohar will be speaking, and our main focus here is the topic, ghee, is it nectar or poison, right? So how are we dissecting this? What is the discrimination that we are using? How do we need to be careful, in which way, in which manner? And so just for the ghee lovers here today, if you can chat in your questions, so Dr. Manohar will go with the flow, but if you have a clarifying question or something that comes up when he is speaking, please chat it in the box, and then, I will either unmute you or I myself will ask Dr. Manohar, as long as it's related to what he is speaking about. A lot of other questions that were submitted ahead of time and that may come up for you later that may or may not be completely relevant to what he is speaking about, we will, of course, address those at the end of his sharing. So I hope that's clear. And again, when you are chatting in your questions in the chat box, just say in bold, say questions, so it's easy for us to identify and I don't miss it, or Nakul doesn't miss it. I hope that is all clear. So Dr. Rammanohar, with further ado, if you want to dive right in, go for it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Shweta, Nakul, and all friends who have gathered here. Morning in India, and I think evening or afternoon in the US. It's a very interesting and exciting topic. Ghee is, such a special substance and a very integral part of Ayurvedic living as well as Ayurvedic treatment. But there's also a lot of enigma around this substance, a lot of controversies, especially the way modern nutritionists look at it and how Ayurveda has picturized it. And we also have extreme views. On the one hand, we have people extolling ghee as the ultimate substance, something that you can drown yourself in and, emancipate yourself from all sufferings. And the other hand, we have also people who look at it as a very potentially harmful substance, as also perhaps as the reason for high incidence of cardiovascular disease in India and places where it is used in large quantities. So the truth lies somewhere in between, and today we are going to explore that. I mean, what is really the truth about ghee? And I would like to confess that I don't have all the answers. What I'm going to do is to discuss the facts, what is there in the Ayurvedic text, what we know today, and then how we can approach ghee with caution and how we can make the best use of this wonderful gift, from nature, from this wonderful animal, the go mata. There is not really much religion about the cow being extolled as the Gomata. It's a very simple sentiment, Somebody who feeds you out of their own breast is whom we call mother. So if we are feeding from the udder of the cow, then it means that that cow is our mother. It's a very simple, straightforward logic. And it is just simple, humanism, that an animal that gives us the milk, which is the life fluid. Milk is the life fluid with which we are being reborn again. And that is Gomata. So in Ayurveda, we have even description of cow's meat. Ayurveda has looked at things very objectively, and it censors the wrong use of meat and harmful killing of animals. At the same time, it also advocates it in situations where it is necessary. So I think when we are discussing Ayurveda, we are discussing science. It's very objective. It's not just based on sentiments. But if you look at Ayurveda, it is complete. It's art, science, humanism, poetry, everything. It is a knowledge system that tries to make us complete. So those of you who just want hard science alone to be represented in Ayurveda, we will be disappointed, because that can also dehumanize. So in Ayurveda, there is science and there's something also beyond science. So from this overall perspective, we can today look at what we know about ghee and what is the Ayurvedic take on it. So at this point, I think I can share my slide. I hope my slide is visible.
Yes, Dr. Rammanohar, we can see it.
Yeah, thank you. So, this is a flow diagram of how milk becomes ghee. Many methods are there of how milk can turn into ghee. And according to Ayurveda, it is, the most refined substance, which is most suitable to build the inner core of our bodies. So the very fact that milk undergoes this curdling and refinement, ghee is almost like representing the equivalent of ojas in the human body, because from which you cannot make any further transformation. So whatever limitations are there in the source, that has been removed, eliminated, and refined. So ghee represents refinement and perception. So we understand ghee in not just for its nutritional properties. So I just wanted to put things in perspective. When you look at ghee, in fact, in Ayurveda, we say in Dinacharya, daily routine, to keep a bowl of ghee, that you will look at every day before you start your day. Just looking at ghee, a vessel filled with ghee is supposed to emanate a lot of positive energy. And it also gives you a symbolic message that just like the ghee is the most refined essence of food, it represents perfection. We have to also undergo a kind of refinement in our lives that will, take you to this goal of perception. And another important aspect of ghee is that ghee is, according to Ayurveda, supports mental health and the development of sattva guna. So the judicious use of ghee can also prepare you for the discovery of a higher consciousness. So this is how broadly Ayurveda looks at ghee. Before we look at its medicinal properties, there is a approach in Ayurveda that we revere. We look at things for its value, and that value is not just utilitarian. It's sometimes even more beyond that. And this is the background. Go Mata as the mother. We acknowledge the cow as a mother because we are then responsible to taking care of this animal because it is feeding us. It becomes like our mother, and we have to take care of it. That is the sentiment that Ayurveda brings in here. And this also establishes a connection between man and his environment, between nature. And then look at the whole process of how milk becomes ghee. And that is a symbolism of perfection and completion. And then the fact that ghee supports the brain and stimulates the awakening of higher mental functions. Ghee is the symbol of human evolution and perfection. So if we even just look at it, contemplate on it, it is also an object of meditation. You don't even have to always drink it. When at the times when you shouldn't be drinking ghee, you can just keep it in front of you, look at it and meditate that beautiful golden color and the smell, which some people may not like initially, but once you get used to it, it's an amazing aroma that the ghee emanates. So this is just a brief introduction. Now let us look at the common myths about ghee. I'm discussing with whatever we know. I'm sure there are many more secrets about ghee that are waiting to be discovered. We do not know as of yet. So some of the common myths about ghee is that ghee is full of saturated fats. So for those of us who want to know why is ghee in the, criticized or, censured, some of the reasons are that ghee is full of saturated fats. Ghee increases cholesterol. Ghee can increase weight, and ghee can cause heart disease. So those of us who are a bit apprehensive of using ghee, these are the reasons that we will mostly find, stated. This is why ghee shouldn't be used. So let us examine these facts. We cannot deny the fact that ghee has more saturated fat than unsaturated fats, but it doesn't mean that ghee has only saturated fats. Some of the most healthiest unsaturated fats are also found in ghee. And another important thing is, even though the saturated fats are there in ghee, these fats are what we call as medium chain fatty acids, MCFAs. When you look at fatty acids, they are short chain, medium chain, and long chain. So all fatty acids, saturated fats are not bad. The same situation is true for coconut oil also. So if a substance has more of long chain fatty acids, then it is likely to be stored in the body like adipose tissue. The body will not, use it for energy. It will store it. But short chain or medium chain fatty acids, the body actually uses it to release energy. So it doesn't get stored. So this is the very important concept, which is why Ayurveda says that ghee increases Agni. Because these medium chain fatty acids fuel. They are absorbed directly into the liver and they provide energy. So it can, for athletes, it activates your metabolism because it's like a fuel. And this is very much in tune with the Ayurvedic idea that Agni, even though it looks like a fat, it activates Agni. I mean, ghee doesn't suppress Agni. And I think in the modern scientific thinking, this medium chain fatty acid, though it is a saturated fat, that should be the reason. And
Dr.
also the medium chain.
Dr. Rammanohar, if I may interrupt you briefly, there may be a lot of folks on the call today who are not very familiar with Agni. And so if you can just briefly explain what Agni is and why is it so central and critical for our understanding.
Sure. So Agni is representing the entire process of our digestion and metabolism. We have Jataragni, we have the Dhatu Agni. So Jataragni deals with the digestion in the alimentary tract, and Dhatu Agni deals with the metabolic processes that take place in the dhatus. And so this, of course, we know balanced metabolism is the foundation for health. And it is when this metabolism, which we today call as metabolic syndrome, which is the foundation for many chronic diseases like diabetes, heart disease, and all these conditions. In Ayurveda, the sum total of metabolism is called as Agni, and even the body, the word Kaya, which means body, actually means Agni, Kaya Antaragni, which means it's the balanced metabolism that is the basis for our health. So it is a very interesting concept in Ayurveda that weight loss cannot be achieved by depriving the body of food or overeating, because weight loss happens by Agni. Agni, when your Agni is burning, you lose weight. Even modern nutritionists are beginning to tell this idea that is why you must start your day by activating your metabolism. Eat foods that your body can start burning. And when the Agni burns, that is when, the metabolism becomes optimal and your body loses weight and balances it. So ghee actually has that ability to activate your fire. When you eat ghee, you actually start burning. And when you burn, not only you don't gain weight, but many unwanted substances in your body will also be burned and removed. So the fact that it is saturated by itself does not mean that ghee is bad. What type of saturated fat is there is very, very important. So this is the answer to that. Now, my next question is, does ghee increase cholesterol? And modern findings indicate that ghee is a rich source of omega-3 fatty acids, which actually decrease LDL cholesterol and can increase HDL cholesterol. And cow's ghee is also a natural antioxidant, which eliminates free radicals, inhibits oxidation process. So it can prevent degenerative changes in our musculoskeletal system, premature graying, and even can prevent Alzheimer's disease. According to Ayurveda, to preserve cognitive functions in old age, judicious use of ghee is extremely, extremely important. And the next question is, does ghee increase weight? And here we have a very wonderful substance in ghee called the butyric acid, as well as the medium chain triglyceride, which actually makes the ghee help to reduce the stubborn fat. And there are many other compounds like conjugated linoleic acid or CLA. So CLA is known to help in combating obesity. And therefore, if you use ghee judiciously, you might end up getting the reverse result, not putting on weight, but by actually losing weight. But let me wait before generalizing. There are many, many words of caution. I mean, it all depends on judicious use, not, swallowing ghee just like that. I mean, that can be very, very harmful. So we'll come to that. Again, the question whether ghee damages heart, according to Ayurveda, ghee is used as a tonic to rejuvenate the heart. And once again, the presence of omega-3 fatty acids can help in decreasing inflammation and also protect against heart disease. Now, some nutritional facts. I'm not going to follow much on this. What is very interesting is that ghee is also a source of very, very important vitamins, lipid soluble vitamins. So it can provide a lot of micronutrients like vitamin A, C, D, K, especially vitamin K2. I will come back to that a little later, and vitamin E. Now, here is a comparison of ghee and butter. They're almost the same, but butter is still impure according to Ayurveda. It still has the remnants of some of the allergens that you will find in milk. But when it is clarified and completely converted into ghee, then it becomes more satmim. According to Ayurveda, it becomes more compatible with the body. The chances of milk producing ama is much, much more when you compare to ghee, because ghee is more refined. It is more closer to our dhatus and tissues. Yet another interesting concept about ghee is that ghee is heat resistant. There is a toxic compound called acrylamide, which is produced when you heat vegetable and seed oils. In fact, a study showed that soybean oil produced more than 10 times acrylamide as ghee when heated to 320 degrees, 160 degrees Celsius. And what is more interesting is that ghee has a high smoke point. And this is the temperature at which fats become volatile and begin to smoke. Ghee's smoke point is 250 degrees Celsius, which is higher than even that of butter. And so even when you cook at very high temperatures, there's some, yeah. So even when you cook it at very high temperatures, ghee fares better than butter. Only thing is, butter is more suitable for baking at lower temperatures. But when you want to, that is how in India, ghee became the golden standard for frying things. But let me also put a warning here. Ayurveda generally does not accept fried food. So the fact that ghee is used for fried foods doesn't mean that that is a signal, go ahead for fried foods. No. In case you want to fry foods, then ghee is better. Fried foods are never good. In India, we used to have also cheating days, which we call as the festivals and feasts. So on those days, people used to make merry, prepare unhealthy foods also, and just freak out. So on those days, in order to have damage control, they would use safer oils like ghee and coconut oil. But please think twice, thrice, 100 times before eating fried food. I mean, they are not really so good for our health. Yet another very important finding about ghee is that it can reduce gut inflammation. So because of this butyric acid, which is actually a very short chain fatty acid, it has been linked to lower levels of inflammation and improved digestive health. And the CLA, or conjugated linoleic acid, may be beneficial for even conditions like cancer, high cholesterol, obesity, and all that. Now, the butyric acid is a short chain fatty acid. It is actually contributing to the distinct flavor and easy digestion. And usually in our body, there are, part of a microbiome, there are this good bacteria. They produce butyric acid from the fiber that we eat. That is why we say our food should be fiber rich. And then they use that energy and intestinal wall support. A healthy body makes its own form of ghee. So this is a very interesting thing. Butyric acid is something that the body needs, which the bacteria inside our stomach is making out of fibers that we eat. But we are aiding it greatly by consuming it. So people who have unhealthy digestive tracts cannot produce butyric acid. And if you give ghee, this is all the reason why Ayurveda says that Agni, I mean, ghee is good for Agni because Agni represents your whole gut system, including all, the microbiota is also part of our Agni. That is why it is one word. We are not splitting it into enzymes, bacteria. It's that whole system of digestion and metabolism. So even if your body is producing enough butyric acid, then it will support the production of killer T cells in the gut and also a strong immune system. That is why we say ghee is good for your immune system. And yet another important thing is many of these fat-soluble vitamins, especially vitamin A intake. I was surprised when I read in the Ayurvedic text that ghee is chakshushim, or good for the eyes. And now modern science is telling that ghee is so critical for absorption of vitamin A, which is very good for the eyes. And this has been already documented in the classical Ayurvedic texts. So eye health, skin health, immune function, balam, everything, we are actually reinforcing the old discoveries of Ayurveda through these findings. And yet another aspect is ghee is better tolerated by people with allergies because it's completely free of the milk sugar lactose and the milk protein casein, which also makes the difference between A1 and A2 milk. A1 milk has a casein which is tending to provoke allergy. Even butter contains a little bit of lactose and casein, but ghee is completely free of that. So it is in fact a better dietary choice for people who have allergies and sensitivities. Then of course, this is an Ayurvedic concept. Ghee as a sattvic food, probably because it is supporting, the functions of the mind. These smriti medhagni kangshinam. It is supposed to, promote positivity, growth, as well as expansion of consciousness because it supports brain health. It stabilizes your mind, and then you are able to elevate yourself to a higher level of consciousness. Now, of course, the Ghee cow, there are many interesting theories.
Dr. Rammanohar, before you go into the Suryaketu Nadi, if we can go a little bit deeper about yes, it's considered a sattvic food, but again, you shared earlier that it's one has to know and understand how to take it, right? Because it can be tamasic, literally, if one is not able to metabolize it. So can you speak a little bit more about, so, there's in the ancient wisdom world, so many things are quote unquote sattvic, but I often feel that often it's a very linear understanding of that. And so I'm wondering if you can share a little bit more about what is truly sattvic, and especially in ghee, like how is it really sattvic, or again, it could be nectar poison, right? Correct?
Right. So I was actually going to come to that. So I was going to say that good and bad, and that's the first point here. That's what I'm going to get into. So if I can wait a little bit, because I'm here, why I'm showing this, I'm not going to describe it. The goodness of ghee is determined by many factors, one of which is the source. First point is the source. So, ghee that comes from any cow is not considered in Ayurveda as always good. So the source is the first important point. Even to get all the sattvic effects, there are factors, multiple factors which determine whether ghee is going to be good or bad. One is the cow, then our metabolism, how the ghee is processed. So I'm dealing with that one by one. I'm coming to the exact point that you have mentioned. So can I just go in the sequence because that's logical?
Yes, please.
So, yeah. So according to Ayurveda, it's very, very important to make sure that you make ghee from a good source, quality source of the milk. And this means that there is a preference for the cow, the way they live, the way they graze. Only then you will get. So for this reason, much of the ghee that is available in the market today would be, according to Ayurveda, suspicious. Anything that looks like ghee may not produce all these effects. In fact, buffalo's ghee has health benefits, but it is very, very tamasic. How does cow's ghee become sattvic? Because of its exposure, because of the way it lives, because of the species from which we get it. This has been very clearly emphasized in Ayurveda. Exposure to the sun, which is why I call, Krishna's Leelas are a good education on how to determine what type of cow's milk and ghee you must use. And ghee, the ghee and milk that comes from such kind of cows has also a good amount of a vitamin called vitamin K2. And I was tempted to call this vitamin Krishna, because only if you engage with cows like Krishna did, we can create that vitamin K2. Vitamin K2 is a very important component because, we know that vitamin D and K2, the importance of these two vitamins we can see here. Vitamin D is necessary for calcium to be absorbed into the system. But vitamin K2 is extremely essential for the body to utilize that calcium. Because if you just take vitamin D, your calcium may get deposited also in the wrong place. You can have atherosclerosis and all that. So it is very, very important. Without vitamin K2, the calcium will not go to the place where it should go. So if you look at the Ghee cow and the Surya Ketu Nadi, the connection between the sun and the, cow and the eating grass, it has been found that only grass-fed cows have the quality of milk that can produce good ghee. So everything has to start from the way you deal with the cow, choosing the cow, giving them a lifestyle, exposing them to the sun, and then the ghee that you make has some special qualities. So this is the first condition. If you really want to get the benefits of ghee, make sure you have the best quality of ghee. So these are all just the characteristics of the cow which have been described, which enables to distinguish whether it is coming from a good source or not. So A1 and A2 milk, A1 milk is the commonly used milk, is obtained from cows of Western origin and yields a large quantity of milk. So today in this industrial world, in this market-oriented world, we have been trying to mass manufacture. And that is how our milk completely changed. And that's how milk has become poison now because of this change. A2 milk is the milk obtained not only from Indian cows, but not these modern type of cows which are growing and living, and especially Indian origin cows like Ghee, Sahiwal are all producing what we call as A2 milk. And there's a big difference between these two is the protein component, casein, which is the most important deciding factor. So when casein, when it breaks down from A1 milk, releases histidine, which leads to the formation of histamine. And that is how allergic reactions may come. A lot of people find it very difficult to deal with milk. And I think in the West, there is also a movement saying that milk is poison. And this is all because of the way we are dealing with these animals and cows. And in India, we had a family relationship with the cow. It made life much more calmer, peaceful, nature-oriented. Today, cow is like a machine which we are churning to create enough milk that you can sell all around the world. So that's a big, big difference. And then a component of morphine, which is also habit forming and having effects on the central nervous system. So children can develop allergic dermatitis, rhinitis, cough, and asthma by drinking this kind of milk. But this is still under research. I am not telling this as established facts, but this distinction has been made. It's very, very clear that the composition of A1 and A2 milk are different. So many of these symptoms are also subsiding when A1 milk is discontinued. And A2 milk, on the other hand, releases energy. Its whole mechanism is different. It's not allergen or allergic. So this is one of the biggest challenges today. I mean, people have been extolling ghee and circulating it, and we may end up developing, body allergies, asthma, and even a disturbed state of mind ultimately by taking ghee because it's not from the right source. So this is extremely, extremely critical. Today, using modern laboratory methods, we can distinguish whether the ghee is coming from a good source, A1 or A2, because a lot of chemical profiling has happened. So this part, then I'm going to the Ayurvedic part and we will conclude. So ghee is considered as an ideal medium for deep frying because of its high smoke point, which is well above the normal cooking temperatures and higher than most of the vegetable oils. And it does not really require refrigeration conditions to store and doesn't spoil so easily. It's not likely to affect people with a dairy or casein intolerance. Ghee is made from butter, but the milk solids and impurities have been removed. So most people who are lactose or casein intolerant have no issue with ghee. It is rich in the oil-soluble vitamins A and E, and also rich in vitamin K2 and CLA, which has even antiviral, anti-cancer properties, or if sourced from grass-fed cows. Only if sourced from grass-fed cows. So this is the bottom line. Now the cons of ghee, the alternate views, and then how Ayurveda would answer it. There is an opinion that the use of ghee is the cause for high prevalence of cardiovascular diseases in India. Because, and this is one of the biggest, opposition in the use of ghee is the high percentage of saturated fats. So there are doctors who say ghee is just another saturated fat. In fact, this is one central reason why people are afraid of ghee, because in our modern thinking, oils means polyunsaturated. I mean, that's what has set in. So any saturated fat is considered to be harmful, and ghee is a representation of, because nearly 50% is saturated fat. But the fact that all of them are not long chain makes a big difference. Long chain gets stored, creates a bad fat, whereas medium chain and short chain actually boost metabolism. This big difference is not appreciated many times. And there are even extreme views like there is no nutritional value of milk that is left in the ghee. And it's dangerous for adolescents and adults, more so if you're a heart patient or obese, as it clogs your arteries. And that sentence I would like to underline, because Ayurveda would also agree. Because that is a body which has a lot of armor in the system. So I think what modern findings corroborate from the Ayurvedic viewpoint is, one, of course, the good source. The second thing is, how is your metabolism functioning? You must be ready and prepared to receive ghee. If you are leading a very bad life, with junk food and irregular habits, adding a little ghee will not compensate for it. It will only compound your problems. Ghee helps people who follow a healthy lifestyle. So now here is a person, this came in Nature, and they are saying that many people are claiming that ghee contains CLA, which is very good. But some people are worried that even though ghee has good fats, their quantity is very less. So they may not have the benefits. And since the saturated fats are high and the useful fats are comparatively less in percentage, this is the argument against ghee. I think this is something which we must understand. But then there are also interesting findings that it may not be ghee, because around the time that Indian population began to have higher incidence of cardiovascular disease, Indian diet had also changed radically, shifted from the use of traditional oils like ghee and coconut oil to modern palm oil and other kind of oils. And a lot of fast food, all these started coming into India. So this is also debated that all these things can be attributed to ghee. I mean, Indian diet had changed radically. So this interesting discussion we can see in the Nature journal. I mean, a lot of people have debated why. So there is no conclusive evidence that it is ghee alone that is actually responsible, for the problems in India. Another reason could be that even when eating ghee, we are sometimes using it in the most wrong way. We use it for sweets and food items, which even according to Ayurveda would be called as junk. So whenever we use ghee, we use it in very heavy sweets or fried food, not using it in the healthy way that Ayurveda has prescribed. So for all these reasons, this way of wrong use of ghee, even according to Ayurveda, can lead to unwanted effects. Now, Ayurvedic understanding of ghee is that it considers ghee as a pure source of snigdha guna. Snigdha guna is the most refined substance of your physical body, which you can connect your body and the mind. It brings everything together. So it's the most essential part of your whole being. And snigha comes from the word love, means something which the body will make part of its own. Like when you love somebody, that person becomes part of you. So snigdha guna means something which can become completely part of you, which means no allergy, as we can see from there. Something which the body recognized as non-self, the body will fight against it. Ghee is having that pure snigdha guna, means body will receive it with no visa, no passport, nothing is needed. Ghee is welcome into every corner of the body. The body feels it's part of it itself. So that is what, according to Ayurveda, is the greatest power of ghee. And it is foremost among the substances having Madhura Rasa, which is all that is needed for building the body, burning energy, which the body is accustomed to. Now, many properties are ascribed. That ghee improves intellect, memory, it increases digestive fire, it increases strength, longevity, virility, eyesight. It's good for children and the aged, fertility, complexion, voice. You have a whole list of the benefits of ghee here in the classical Ayurvedic texts. Helpful in injuries. That is why ghee is also an excellent medium. I mean, if you infuse it with herbs, you can make it even more versatile. Already ghee is versatile because of its complex, chemical composition. If you infuse it with herbs, and a very beautiful quality of ghee is that without losing its own properties or without compromising the properties of the substance that you add to it, it works. So value addition, it's a very good substance to which you can do what we call as value addition. So when it is Brahmi Gridam, it behaves exactly like Brahmi Gridam. If you add a strong medicine like Bhalladaga into Gridam, then its whole complexion changes. So it completely supports the substance which it is carrying. So for this reason, it's called as a Yoga Vahi. So it's basically good for Vata and Pitta. And people who have kapha should be a little careful about eating too much of ghee. That's another point. According to your constitution, whether ghee will benefit you, there are some protocols, vidhis. Ghee is also extremely good in the management of psychological conditions, psychosis. It helps in emaciation and, of course, brings auspiciousness. I'm sure, when you hear, feel, or get this aroma of ghee, it has a very calming effect on our minds. When you cook with ghee, that our aroma spreads everywhere. So it brings auspiciousness. This is, I don't know, a scientific reason, but keeping ghee in a vessel, looking at it, all these are supposed to have very positive effects on your mind. So even as I was mentioning earlier, when there are ama in your system and you cannot eat ghee, please at least have a look at it every day and say hi, and that will do you a lot of good. So according to Ayurveda, small quantities should be taken daily. Ayurveda does not, except for Snehapana, which is a treatment, where you drink large quantities of ghee. What Ayurveda says is moderation, even a little, but if you take it regularly, it can be having magical effects. And here, interestingly, dal, rice, and ghee is how Ayurveda in India, we start a meal. Put a little rice, a little ghee, and dal. And this somehow seems to correlate with the modern idea of protein, carbohydrate, and fat as the complete meal. We had all this idea when we make a roti dal. Idli is black gram and rice. Always we combine a cereal and a protein and then put some oil. All the Indian foods are like that. Even without this modern concept of protein, fat, and carbohydrate, you can see all our recipes bring a balance of these three things. There will be cereal, there will be a pulse, and there will be some oil. So that all these essential nutrients are absorbed. So ghee was such a essential ingredient, with which you open your food. The first morsel is with this. And that is definitely a safe dose. Yes, Shweta, you wanted to say something?
I was just going to kind of just think about, how you were emphasizing how Ayurveda and everything is so complete, right? And so even in this amazing way, this combination in these simple ways, it's such a complete nourishment that one is getting, which I often feel is quite missing in people's thinking. Is how do we make a meal complete in this way? And so, yeah, thank you for emphasizing that.
And also, when we have a feast in India, we make many, many dishes. And I've noticed the first time you serve it, everything is given very little, just, a spoon. And then the second round, you can get whatever you want. So this was customization. Because everybody is able to decide what is suited for them. So this idea of a customization principle. So in the first round, there is a protocol of how you will serve during a feast. Everything is given just very little. And then people choose. So according to their constitution, certain items they take more, certain items they take less. So this idea of being, making a meal that is general, okay for everyone, but still allowing it to be customized is also part of this Ayurvedic way of thinking. So that's, I think, a very interesting point. And this is one of the major reasons why we say ghee should be taken is longevity, especially if we want our cognitive functions to be preserved in old age, which is an emerging problem. Long ago, I was trying to talk of this idea that, but without lifestyle and diet regulation, eating ghee will be harmful. Definitely, I can say with our erratic lifestyle and diet, ghee is incompatible with it. That is why we also call it as a sattvic food. Sattvic food means you must have a sattvic lifestyle. Then when you eat ghee, it will help. Otherwise, you are just putting it into, a polluted system, and then it can only add to your problems. But if you take it correctly, ghee will enable you to be mentally strong. It is de-addicting and it supports your brain. Most of the other fats, there is like if you take drugs like statin and all that, it may protect your heart to some extent, but it creates damages elsewhere, especially the brain. The FDA has put out a warning that if you take these statins, sometimes you may have mental problems, brain dysfunction. So we are now facing the dilemma whether we should save our heart or our brain. Because, to protect our heart, we may lose our brain. To protect our brain, we may lose our heart and life. But if you want a fat that can protect your heart and brain at the same time, then that is ghee. Because it is heart healthy and brain healthy at the same time. Because brain is just 2% of the whole body, but 25% of cholesterol is in the brain. So if you completely reduce your fats, and there is this whole paranoid, kind of fear about fats today, people are damaging their brains, and you can see dementia, Alzheimer's, all these problems are on the rise. And Ayurveda tells long-term mental health, longevity, suppleness of the cardiovascular system, all that is dependent on, proper use of ghee. Now, this comes to our question. I'm coming to almost the end of my talk and only have 2 more points. Does this all mean that Ayurveda gives blanket approval of ghee? No. The Ayurvedic text says, Nacha kinjid adosha nirguna. There is no substance in the world that does not have demerits or merits. Every substance has positive and negative effects. Ghee has its own share of woes, which we have to accept and understand. So guna bhuyastu madho vichintyada, one for therefore look at the risks and benefits, and we should use it in such a way that the benefits overweigh the risks. So anything, even if it is nectar, there is a risk in using it. That's what Ayurveda says. Even misuse of nectar that Dhanvantari got from the Milky Ocean, that can also kill you if you are not careful on how you use it. So ghee can be good and bad depending on how we use it. And it can be very beneficial if used judiciously. And that is the theme of our talk today, Pakveshu Dosheshu Amritam. When the ama in the body has been metabolized, when you are leading a lifestyle that will not create ama in your system, then ghee is like nectar. That is what this verse from the Samhitas indicate. Tad Vishopama Manyatha. Without mincing any words, our acharyas have said, when there is accumulation of ama in the body, ghee is like poison. So it can be nectar and it can also be poison at the same time. And so modern science is bringing a lot of contradictory facts about ghee. Facts are facts. But I think only the Ayurvedic understanding them put these facts in the right perspective. Why are there positive and negative effects at the same time? If a researcher without Ayurvedic understanding chooses two groups of people and gives them ghee and does not give ghee, and he may find that people who took ghee had some bad problem, and this is how research is going, and they say ghee is bad. Now an Ayurvedic physician would say, in which type of people ghee produce this effect? Tomorrow, some other research will take ghee and give it to some groups, and they say now it is very good. This is how we are finding the facts coming out. So ghee is good in people when it is used properly. Ghee is bad in people when it is used improperly. So that is why science always produces these contradictory outcomes without really knowing what makes the difference. And in Ayurveda, I think the wisdom of Ayurveda tells us why ghee is good, but yet why we should be careful. And what really makes the difference, so whether ghee is going to be nectar or poison, is not dependent on ghee itself, but it is dependent on us, our discrimination, our understanding, and our discipline. So we need to normalize our metabolism in order to get full benefits of ghee, and people with ama accumulation should exercise caution when using ghee. And with that, I conclude. Namaste.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Rammanohar, for your succinct sharing and things. I'm just scanning the comments section to see. Dr. Pratibha, did you want to unmute yourself and kind of ask about slide number 1 of why you feel to dwell on that more?
Namaste, Rammanohar ji.
Namaste, namaste.
Hi, Shweta. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. Ghee is my most favorite food item, so I had to listen in. So the very first slide, Rammanohar ji, which is talking about the various traditional methods of preparing ghee. Could you dwell on that a little bit? Because one important point is what is the raw material that's going into the making of ghee? And the second, I think, very important thing is the methodology of the preparation of ghee. And the third is our internal environment. So the methodology is something I'm a little more curious about. What are, in your experience, the various methods? And I think slide 1 had a good pictorial graph of that.
Yeah. Basically in Ayurveda, we are following 2 methods. One is making ghee directly from the cream of milk without, converting into curds or butter. And this is said to be a little bit more pitta shamaka because you are avoiding that process of strong fermentation. And the other is that we first make the curds, and this was typical, a cultural symbol in old Indian homes also, churning of the butter. And I remember when we were young, we all at our homes we all had that churning rod, and our mothers, grandmothers, they would be spending a considerable time of their day, churning the buttermilk and creating the butter. And then that butter is heated very gently, and you can see at the end all those brown flakes are formed, and that is filtered, and the kitchen used to emanate this aroma of ghee. So these are the two methods that classically Ayurveda has recommended. And there are also other methods, like Ayurvedic texts talk about, feeding the cow with very specific herbs when you want to modify the qualities of the milk that you are taking. So many medicines are actually fed to the cow, and then you are milking it. Another way is that you make a decoction of the milk and then curdle it and then make the ghee instead of, this actually helps to prevent the effect of heating of the ghee. Usually when we make a medicated ghee, we take the ghee and then add the herbs and then boil the ghee again. So Ayurveda says in some cases it's better not to boil the ghee again. This is true for coconut oil also. With coconut milk itself, you boil the herbs, then the resultant, when that coconut milk turns into oil, the herbs are already infused. So you can prevent, a second heating, which according to Ayurveda is very important to preserve the pure qualities of that ghee. So this is another method which Ayurveda uses. We make decoction, cook the milk with the herbs, and then you curdle it, and then you separate, the cream and butter, and then you make the ghee, and then you don't have to cook it again. So these are all the methods that are classically used in Ayurveda. And depending on the condition, for common use as food and as use of medicine, the methods are slightly different. And when you say Grida is a yoga vahi, what substances you want to infuse that ghee with also determines, what methodology you would actually be using.
I think the one that is cultured means the one that is converted into your curd and then churned. I would imagine that's more laghu than the one that's made directly from the grain.
Laghu, only when we want more of Rakta Pitta is involved, we go directly from the milk, because to avoid that fermentation makes it a little anti-Pitta. Not so much, but still. That is why in Rakta Pitta conditions, we take it directly from milk, because it's more Rakta Pitta pacifying. So if you have a fear in a disease where Rakta and Pitta shouldn't be disturbed at all, and then you must give ghee, that is where we are taking it directly from milk. But otherwise, for the gut health and all that, the classical method, the Deshi method of making ghee is what is generally recommended.
If I could just ask another small follow-on question, Murchana of ghee, what are some of the traditional methods?
Murchana we don't actually do in South India. This Murchana concept is in the north. Even Taila Murchana is done, Grida Murchana is done. I mean, I'm absolutely unfamiliar, because we don't do that. Because according to us, if we make the ghee very clearly, it should get that golden yellow color, which is called as ajyam. I mean, when you melt the ghee, if it becomes homogeneous, like a molten gold, then that is enough. So I think the Murchana is basically done to, overcome some acceptance in the body. With people, who are not able to tolerate it, you're just making it, acceptable. Both the Thailam and Grida Murchana concept has come like that. But in the South, we have never done Grida Murchana or Thailam Murchana in any of our preparations here.
Thank you.
Yeah, use of ghee as food and medicine. It's a thin line that separates this. But when you're using ghee as medicine, we actually, medicate it. I mean, pure ghee is part of your food, and we use it in very small quantities. The best way to take ghee as a food is at the beginning of a meal, a very small quantity. But when you're taking as medicine, we have to choose the right kind of herbs, and it's called as ghritam, medicated ghritam. So there are many herbal combinations that are combined, and you cook. There's a method of cooking ghee in that. So it's not plain ghee. You add the decoction of these herbs, then you add ghee, and then you boil it, cook it, and then all that water is evaporated, and what remains is the medicated ghee. And having said that, there is also something called as Purana Ghridam, which is so special in Ayurveda, stored ghee, stored for 10 years, 50 years, 100 years. In Kerala, there is a temple where they offer ghee to the deity, Lord Shiva. And all that old ghee, is collected, and it is said to have wonderful healing properties, especially for chronic ulcers, cancers. But this needs to be further studied. So that is Purana Ghridam. 100 years old ghee is said to be extremely, beneficial. So that's more for medicine. That's not for food. But so this is the thing: plain ghee got from the right source, prepared in the right method, used by the right person. A Vata person can have a little bit more of ghee, provided his Agni is okay at that time. A Pitta person is the most suited for ghee because ghee itself is Pitta Shamanam. Kapha person should use with a little care. And there is a difference. A Vata person can take ghee. When he takes it, he can take large quantities. A Pitta person should lick, it is said, little by little. A Pitta person should never overwhelm his digestion by suddenly drinking large quantities of ghee. So these minor things are also there on the proper use of ghee. So we can, when you are eating the food, how you are going to take it, you can decide whether you're going to just take a spoon of ghee, which is for a Vata person, or just spread it, onto your food and take a little by little so that it is in a Pitta condition. And a Kapha person being very judicious and, taking very less quantity. And also at the times, in the times of the year, Sharad Ritu, when Pitta is aggravated, is a good time when you can eat ghee. In summers, actually ghee should help, but too much of ghee will not be digested in summer. So we should be careful. Winters are good because our digestion is strong, but then if you overeat it, then it can also create a problem. So many factors are there. Purana Grida, if you want to make at home, you just need to store it. But we have to outlive the Purana Grida. You can make Purana Grida for your next generation. So your children, grandchildren may be able to use it. If you can get it, if your grandparents had thought about you at that time, and Purana Grida. Or you can come to a temple in Kerala and you will get it as a prasada. But I think we can all start making some Purana Grida for our future generation. Start storing it.
Yes, what an amazing movement would that be, right, for our future generations, for sure, and especially our children in the womb and beyond. So, Dr. Rammanohar, just to kind of go back to, because we have a mixed and a diverse crowd of where people might be in their understanding of ghee and how they use it, can you just share briefly, like, just for the layperson, like, because there's an emphasis of like, well, depending on my Agni and if I can metabolize it, how does one know if they are even metabolizing it or not, right? So there's this basic question that comes of, well, I want to be careful, right? Now with this knowledge and awareness that you're sharing, I want to be careful of how I'm using ghee. Now, how do I assess if this is helping me or not? And of course, beyond going to an Ayurvedic practitioner or Vaidya, what are some signs? What are some things someone can look out for in this self-healing and self-assessment way?
Yeah, there are some subjective ways in which you can assess it, which are the signs of proper digestion, proper elimination of the fecus, the stools, feeling of lightness. So Ayurveda says the signs of proper digestion, you're having proper bowel movements every day at the right time without any effort, and you feel, natural hunger, which is appeased by eating food, and it doesn't come back again unnaturally. So no hyperacidity. Simple signs of indigestion or ama you can know by just observing your own stomach. If you have a feeling of watering in the mouth or thing after meals, then it means kapha has been disturbed. If there is some burning sensation, tendency for agitation, then it means your meal has not been properly digested. Pitta has gone out of balance. And if you feel some flatulence and other bloatedness, then there is vata. So it's possible for everybody every day to check how their digestion is functioning. And then you have to immediately, if you correct it at that stage, it will not build up into something more severe. Other ways are that after taking ghee for some time, you can, today it's possible, you can also do a blood checkup. If there's any problem with your lipid profile or something, then it is a clear indication that ama is there in your system. So we have clearly seen in people with ama and without ama, ghee's impact on the lipid profile and your overall metabolic markers are very different.
If anyone wants to unmute themselves and ask, Ashley, I think you have a question on Shautadatta, on the ghee, if you want to unmute yourself and clarify what you are asking about the 100 times washed ghee. Ashley, I'm not sure if you're still here. Okay. So Dr. Manohar, Ashley was just asked in the chat box, what about?
I saw two questions. When we use ghee as medicine, should we use it empty stomach or after food? This again depends. Giving food medicine at different times depends on the dosha involved, what subtype of dosha is involved. If it is apana, we give it in the morning. If it is for kapha, we give it in the morning. If it is for a rasayana effect, we give it at night. If it is Vyana Vata, in the morning we give it before food, afternoon evening we will give it after food. So we cannot generalize that. That is very specific. A physician would be able to take a call on, at an exact moment. If Prana Vata is affected, you have to take it along with each morsel of the food. So, it's very specific to that condition. And the second question about Shatadhauda Grida is ghee which we wash 100 times in water. It is to make it extremely Shita Vaidya. This is used to make it more Pitta Shamaka, and this is used in severe burning sensation and all that on the skin. I have found this helpful in a patient with cancer. Just by applying this Shatadhauda Grida externally, the patient who was screaming and was on morphine, for intolerable pain, by applying Shatadhauda Grida, she was able to withdraw morphine. So sometimes it produces dramatic results if it is prepared correctly. It's very easy to make because you're just washing the ghee many 100 times and it changes the virya. And this is not something which we can understand yet through modern scientific thinking, but you can see some empirical observations, the results.
Kind of in relation to what you were just sharing with cancer, there's a question that came in about, let me just read it. Hold on. Is Golgrita good in cancer with patients undergoing conventional cancer therapies?
Yes, I mean, Grita can in fact mitigate the unwanted effects of chemotherapy and radiation. And if you medicate it correctly, it can, because you know these chemotherapy and radiation are very Ushna Ruksha, very strong, and the body, it can protect, give some protection from the cells as a rasayana. In fact, some of us are working on this, how to prepare a patient for chemotherapy with Ayurvedic treatments, how to strengthen them so that their bodies can withstand, you know, this destructive impact of these therapies. But that requires a little bit more research from the Ayurvedic viewpoint. The reason I'm saying is that is why whenever we are using any tikshna strong medicine, we ask them to do snehapana. This is the principle of panchakarma. In panchakarma, the medicines that we are giving are toxins to induce mamana or virechana. And before that happens, we saturate the person's body with ghee. You know, and then when they undertake these strong medicines, so ghee is said to be vishaghanam. I mentioned that in my slides. It is alexipharmic, it is antitoxin, so it can neutralize the effects of a lot of toxic substances that get into the body. And so it is, from that point of view, it is definitely going to be helpful. But how and in what protocol we have to use it, we need to develop. And I'm happy to say that some studies are happening now. We are working on it.
Great, wonderful. If other people want to unmute themselves and make any comments or questions, I'm just going to pull up some other questions that have come in before the seminar.
Hi, I'm Mamta, and namaste, Dr. Ram. Thank you so much for this evening. My question is, since we do not have cows like you have in India that are recommended to get ghee, not even just all Indian cows, but specific cows, what happens to people who live outside? I'm in the US. And so does that mean we cannot make ghee at home and should not have ghee at all since it's made from the wrong cows? How does one work that out?
I really do not have a very practical suggestion for that, but you know, if you really want it, we'll find a way. That's what I feel, because you know, in India, we never think, what about pasta, pizza? These are all coming from Italy or US. Everything is available here now. We have made all the setups that is necessary to create all the kind of junk foods that we need from any part of the world. So if you really want it, you can get it. We are also importing, you know, food, Japanese food. Everything is go to the extent of. I'm surprised. We have cranberries, American blueberries. I don't get grapes in my local market here. They are selling me raspberries, cranberries, and blueberries, and we are not growing it here. Because you know that there is this whole hype about the antioxidant activity of blueberries and how good it is. And I was just thinking, amalaki is an equally superfood, but no Indian wants it now. They're all going behind this.
Yes.
So I think in today's world, if we were at the time of Charaka, you know, carrying a Ghee cow from India to US would have been a real challenge. But with today's technology, connectedness, and the network, I think it's only a matter of will. I mean, if you really want it, it's not a big challenge.
Well, but generally, because, you know, I'm also an Ayurveda practitioner here, and we can't get, I mean, I know that this company is importing and we're beginning to get some, but you cannot give it to everybody. And that means you can't make ghee at home anymore. There's no equivalent for it, right? Blueberries are the equivalent possibly of amlaki in the West. Okay, possibly locally if you had that, but ghee is very different.
It's very true, sure. So yes, I think this requires, you know, the first thing is we need to have more understanding, because I believe that when you really value something, we will find a way to do it. That's how even medicines, when they are first discovered, it's very impractical. You look at any new medicine that is discovered, it looks so expensive to make it. How will we distribute it? All these questions come up. But when you really realize that, this is the thing and this is going to help, then suddenly ways open up and, it becomes cost effective. And when a new drug is developed for a particular cancer, which is available only in the US, at first it costs crores of rupees in India. And we think that nobody may be able to get it at all. But then develops a whole setup and technology which makes it available. What I think is that we have still not realized that real benefit of ghee, that for people who matter, this has not yet been realized. Because if it is realized, then we will take the steps.
And also the source. I'm really thankful for this webinar, because nobody really knows that you only need to have ghee from certain cows. You know what I mean? And maybe once that information goes around, people will begin to expand, just like organic farming expanded and things like that.
Exactly. That's what I feel. I mean, the first step is to spread the knowledge and, be level-headed, be objective. And we are talking science. I mean, there is a reason why Ayurveda said that ghee is good and also that it is bad. That's another message which has to really come, because Ayurveda used these two extreme terms, that ghee is nectar and also poison. So which means it has not minced words to say that it can be harmful. Even if it comes from the right source, if it is used in the wrong way, ghee can be harmful. So I think this education about ghee is the key thing. And when we are fully aware of how it can help us, we will find ways. Life finds a way. And if it's so indispensable, we'll try to get it. And I'm sure this will happen.
And you also talk about mixing ghee and honey, and I'll be quiet now.
Yeah.
Mamta, you want to just kind of finish what you were asking, and then Geeta ji, I think you want to ask a question.
I just have a quick question. Yeah. No,
So
right.
my question was that over here it said, if you have ghee and honey together in equal quantities, it's very toxic. But if you have it in unequal quantities, it's very good for ojas. And I'm wondering if you can expand on that.
Yeah, there has been a particular study, the toxic profile of ghee and honey. I can also share that article. What happens? There are some chemical changes people have discovered that might, make this harmful. So the toxicity profile of ghee and honey, just a minute, I'm just trying to open that. So today some experiments have also happened in trying to find this out. So there is a published article. What will happen when, so this has been published in toxicology reports. I'll just share my screen and I can also share the link later. So can you see the screen?
Yes.
So here, the highlights of this paper, I will not read the whole paper. I mean, I can give you the link and you can read it carefully. Honey and ghee in equal ratio has always been found as an incompatible diet if taken for a long duration. See, all these incompatibilities are not like, snake bite, you will die immediately. No. It means there is a risk for harm. And it's like getting into a flight. I've always wondered why Ayurveda is so extra cautious. Until, once when I was going through airports and, getting into flights, I realized these people are a little overcautious. When you sit in the seat, they will say, suppose the plane crashes, nobody wants to. So, but the chance of a plane crashing is, way below 0.00%. But still they take all this precaution. So Ayurveda is extremely safe. When you look at the whole population, just like modern science would say, when you're taking a drug, there's a small chance, 1% chance that somebody might get. It's very important to declare that. And that is what Ayurveda says. Otherwise, a lot of people would have been an epidemic of ghee and honey poisoning. That hasn't happened. It is subtle. So it's good to avoid it. So this has actually been proven by many biochemical parameters, including liver function test, renal function test, oxidative stress tests, incretin hormones. And this is the liver tissue morphology shows that there is a damaging effect if you take ghee and honey together. And this paper is all about that, you know. So if you are interested, I can share this paper and you will get more details.
Thank you so much. Yes.
So is it okay if I just share the link, because it's a free paper and you can download it?
Or you can chat it in, and then we'll also send it out with the recording or other resources that you have as well.
Okay, I'll just put it in the chat. Yeah.
Itaji, did you want to?
Yes, very quickly. This was wonderful, Rammanohar ji. You had mentioned in my film that anything that the most expensive foods are useless. They create more ama than good, because there's no fire, there's no agni. It's taken in the wrong spirit. So I'm looking at this as the very principle of what you said, ghee, or whether it's ghee or anything else. Is there a lack of understanding on Agni and ourselves and who we are and how our fire can change everything? So I feel like that's so lacking, because unless there's a hook in this body, anything you put in, so why ghee or why whatever? So I feel like, why aren't we all talking about that more than anything? Because there's such a lack of understanding completely. The amount of ice that everybody drinks the drinks in this country is enough to just kill any hope. So I know this was a wonderful talk. It was fantastic, but I'm looking at it in the same vein as any food. It's going to harm or it's going to be so helpful if the Agni is in the right place. So
Yeah.
you see that lack of understanding? That's my question. Sorry.
Yes. I think we need to bring this preventive Ayurveda as a living, where people are trained to know. Because in my understanding, Ayurveda is the knowledge of life. It's like a user's manual. Every living being, every human being should keep this user's manual with them and understand their own body and how best to make use of it. So today we are busy trying to promote Ayurveda as a medical system. But before that, it should come into the lives of the people as a user's manual. Because then they will be ready to use it as a medicine when it is required. Ayurvedic medicine, clinical intervention is not like a visit to a modern doctor, just fixing your body with something and after that you forget it. When you go to an Ayurveda physician, you must already have a background knowledge of what is Ayurveda, what is it like, what the doctor is going to do to you. Is trying to help you to live a good life. If you are not taking any effort and you say, come on, fix me, that's not the way Ayurveda works. Ayurveda is just a helping hand to somebody who's already trying to fix themselves. So I think what is most fundamentally required is to introduce Ayurveda into the lives of people. And everybody should become Ayurveda literate. And then only Ayurveda as a medical system makes sense. But today we are going the other way. When we say promotion of Ayurveda, we are thinking that, introduce some new drugs. That is how Ayurveda will go. So here is a new Ayurvedic drug for Parkinson's. FDA approved. This is the line we are following. But what we have to actually do is to bring Ayurveda to the people, to the common man. I am for teaching Ayurveda to the common man first. Make them understand. This common man includes also scientists, everybody. They are all common in this, from this point of view. So let them all first learn about their own lives, how to make it better. And then we can think about, integrating Ayurveda. Even FDA authorities, they should take a lesson in Ayurveda that will influence the way they regulate, medical systems. And once they understand the value, things will change.
Dr. Ram, if I may interject here, in California, we have Senate Bill 577, which allows you to practice preventative Ayurveda, but can't treat a disease. And we fought for that in 2002 and got that. And what that is exactly what you're saying is if people lived Ayurvedically preventatively, so many diseases would not be there. And there is so much work to be done just on the preventative levels that we should not try to be wannabe physicians with so little education, but we can do a lot with lifestyle changes right now.
Exactly. I think that's a great thing. We need both, but I think the best way for Ayurveda to enter now is as a way of living. That's how it was in India.
Yes.
And medicine is one part of it. So we don't need to feel worried that we are not able to push curative Ayurveda. It will come automatically. But when it comes into a society that is already grounded in a healthy living, things are much easier. This whole economic burden of healthcare, this epidemic of non-communicable diseases, all that will, be greatly reduced. Okay, so I think
Dr. Rammanohar, just if you have time, if you have one more question that came in.
Yeah.
Is that okay? So someone had submitted about the quality of ghee based on the type of the cow milk that it comes from. So of course we addressed the ideal type here is with ghee cow ghee, ghee cow milk, etc. But in reality, again, one may not have access to it. So the thought process, I think, behind this question is, if you can talk about boosting the quality of ghee if it comes from cows that are used for mass production. So how can we basically, I guess not course correct is not the right term, but the essence of this question is coming that because if the source, again, may not be the most ideal source, how do we, again, boost this quality? The thought process is around boosting.
Yeah. So that's the reason why in Ayurveda, we classify things as to one class, quality 1, 2, 3. There was a system to classify raw drugs also that way. Even in those days, we wouldn't always get the best. So the second best. Then you use the second best. This is where I think the concept that Dr. Pratibha, thank you for pointing that out. The Murchana is one way in which we can compensate for the bad qualities of any substance. It is in anticipation of such a problem that you do Murchana, you optimize it. But today we also, I'm being very practical, we also have technology. And we have a very good lab here at our hospital where we have very advanced facilities, and I'm trying to use that. We know the profiling, chemical profiling of good ghee. And so when you have any ghee, it is always possible to check, especially the sensitive things are the percentage of saturated fatty acids, whether the critical components like butyric acid or CLA or the vitamins are actually present, whether there are any harmful substances. That could be an index to decide, and we could put a cutoff percentage saying, this is how most of the food industry works around this problem, by putting some acceptable limits. And then we could say that this is at least an acceptable quality of ghee, even though it may not come from the ideal source. So I think we'll have to settle with that. And then using certain herbs. One of the simple ways is turmeric, ghee turmeric. Turmeric, adding turmeric to ghee. It also makes it more yellow, and it also neutralizes a lot of toxins. And that's very commonly practiced, ghee with a little bit of turmeric, because turmeric, some of the compounds like termiron in turmeric is also better delivered to the brain. And that comes to the point, there is also a theory that ghee enables many lipophilic substances to cross the blood-brain barrier, and therefore have an effect on the brain. This still needs further studies. So what I have talked about today is what is the current understanding, what are the possibilities, and then my own ignorance also I have to share with you. There are many things which I still do not know. I'm still a student of Ayurveda. But I think we have enough on our plates to not dismiss ghee. In fact, enough in our plate that warrants more studies, more careful understanding. And, that's where we stand. And I'm also ignorant on many things. That's the last word I would like to say. Excuse me for all my ignorance. I'm still learning.
That's what we all are. So thank you so much for enlightening us and taking so much time out of your precious schedule and busy schedule to enlighten us. So thank you so much. For folks on the webinar, we just wanted to make a few more announcements that once again, the recording will go out of this. So you can always review it because Dr. Rammanohar covered a lot in a very short amount of time. So you can always re-listen to the recording and share it with others. Again, we're here to share the knowledge so that ripple effect, we get to really reflect on our own thought process and change our own habits for that daily living, right? That has to happen. And so, Nakul, Dr. Rammanohar, did you want to say any closing words before we just go into some announcements or anything like that?
Yeah, I think I already spoke quite a lot. And yeah, I think ghee is one of the great discoveries of Ayurveda. And it is also getting globally, used. I read in many places that in non-Indian societies also it is becoming more popular. But that is where the whole warning comes, and that's the theme of today's discussion, whether it's nectar or poison. So I think ghee discrimination, what I feel we need in today's world is health intelligence. Discrimination of how best to use the substances around us in a way that is more useful and beneficial for us. And ghee is a good example of how we can mess this up or really take the right decisions. So I hope that's okay as a closing remark. And thank you very much
Thank you.
for this opportunity. And I enjoyed, engaging in this discussion.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Namaste.
I'd just like to thank everybody for participating in this call. We have I just need a minute or two of your time. We have, for us, as Shweta started and Rammanohar-ji reiterated that, with our Mahagi program, we see ghee as the highest possibility of ghee is to share the essential knowledge of holistic living. And with this program, the Mahagi program here in the US, that is our intention. So we want to operate in a manner that upholds that the outer ghee that we are sharing upholds the integrity of the inner ghee, which is our mission to share, and with of course, and to facilitate, thanks to the erudition and the knowledge that is available to us through resources like Dr. Rammanohar. So I wanted to thank you all for joining us, and just a quick share of a screen of offers we have currently. If you can see my screen, for those who are participating. Here we go. So until the new moon, Diwali, we have free shipping of Mahagi. You can order on our website using the code Diwali9, and we can ship anywhere in the US. We have a complimentary copy of The Great Gift of Ghee Vegetarian Seasonal Cookbook, If you choose to subscribe, you or your friends. And there's a special offer on from Geeta Desai for streaming any one of the movies that she's made, Ayurveda Unveiled, or in combination, Yoga Unveiled and Raga Unveiled as well. You just need to email her at yogaunveiled@hotmail.com.
Yeah, so Dr. Rammanohar is featured in Geeta Ji's film, which is Geeta Ji, since you're here, do you want to just quickly share a little bit about the trilogy?
Yes, I will. I would love to. I will most emphatically talk about Ayurveda Unveiled in the interest of time, but the trilogy is our offering to bring the true essence of some of the traditions that are very, very dear to me from the Indic traditions, namely yoga and raga music, Hindustani classical music, and the latest production, the 5-hour documentary, is on Ayurveda. And Rammanohar ji has brilliantly given his know-how and wisdom throughout the film, and amongst many other luminaries. But the objective, as I said, was truly to bring the power, the profoundness, the purity, and the essence of what the sages had intended to offer to humanity, which I think Rammanohar ji already kind of voiced. It's an offering to keep ourselves fit and not the way it's going today, as a curative, as a treatment modality. So to really understand the foundation is what the film is all about, films, all 3 of them, and enjoy them. It's a perfect introduction to a lot of things that many of the greats will be talking to you about over different Zooms and meetings and different books and so on and so forth. It covers the bedrock of what these traditions are built upon. So it's a great introduction to the subject. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Nakul and Shweta.
Again, you can.
Thank you for that. Sorry, Shweta, go ahead.
So for folks who are interested, you could go to unveiledtrilogy.com to learn more about Geeta Ji's work and the way she, as her gift as a filmmaker, is spreading and sharing the knowledge of our ancient wisdoms. So great.
Just a word of thanks, just to wrap things up, Shweta, unless you have anything to add. I hope you all can see my screen. Just like to thank Rammanohar ji and the Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham for making this possible.
We can't see the share screening, no.
Can you? Can you see it now?
Yes.
All right, great. I'm a little technologically challenged. Getting there with some help of Ghee, while keeping an eye on the Ama. I also like to thank Aarti at Samsara Foundation for helping us spread the word. These are wonderful allies that we have on our mission to share, as I said, the highest possibility of Ghee, which we see as a carrier of essential knowledge on holistic living. Hiral at Pure Prana, Geeta Ben at, of course, who just shared with you about the movies that she's made. Andrea at Ahara Ghee. By the way, you can buy Maha Ghee from Andrea at iloveghee.com. It's the only other place you can order it online, and she's on the West Coast, so definitely closer to those living on that side of the US. And of course, Shweta, who's been really the Mahamama of the program, Ghee program since it started, and right from the conception of the program. And really appreciate how this alliance has happened and the promise it holds. Over to you, Shweta.
Yeah, and so I think one of the visions that we have is, just also in alignment with environmentally and carbon. This is not like this business venture or anything like that. We want to really bring authentic ghee. And what we're always seeking is to partner up with local people throughout the US. And so if you are interested in kind of housing Maha Ghee, like kind of here in New York, I always have a supply, so all the local people, so it really cuts down on carbon, right? So when we talk about a way of life, and then at a global scale, we want to also look like, why should people actually have to pay for shipping, but environmentally it's not healthy and what good. And so we're always looking for folks to kind of carry ghee, and also importantly, it's the education and the knowledge. So this is not a shelf product. That's why we've made a conscious decision not to go on Amazon or any other on-site websites, because we want people to engage about ghee, like engage about the topics and way of thinking and living and things that we address today. And so that would not happen if this was like just a shelf product, right? Or something that you just put in your cart online. And so if you are interested in kind of housing Maha Ghee and educating people around it through your practices, through your own way of life, just you can email us at info@mahaghee.com, and then we're happy to facilitate the process. It's very simple. So Pratibha, Dr. Pratibha, you have your hand raised. Did you want to share something?
I just wanted to ask, where is the production location of Maha Ghee?
Hi, Pratibha, let me chime in here. So we get it from Muni Seva Ashram in just outside of Vadodara in Gujarat. And that's where it's come from right from day one. We feel that it is the highest integrity product out there that we have come across in India. We feel comfortable sharing it. And as I said, being the outer ghee for the inner ghee that we really want to facilitate.
Thank you.
And Pratibha ji, if you have more detailed questions, of course, we have a lot of, we can get you in direct touch with folks at the Muni Seva Ashram, or if you have any other kind of detailed questions, we're happy to answer that too. So,
Thank you. Thank you, Shweta.
Yeah. And, we didn't go deeply into it, but Dr. Rammanohar touched upon it. As some of these principles is, they milk the cow by hand at dawn, right? Like those are the not so little, but very critical aspects that contribute to the quality and the healing factor, right, of the ghee. They're all they're freed. They roam around free in the fields, eating good quality grass and hay, just all these different things that our rishis and acharyas have taught us. That is what they are following, which is why, that's what we bring here.
Do they have a website? Is there a link to the website?
We have the mahaghee.com website, but Muni Seva Ashram, Nakul, I don't think they.
Yes, I've shared that. If you scroll up all the way to the top of the chat, you'll see the website address for Muni Seva Ashram, also known as Green Ashram.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to.
It's not there in the chat. Actually, if you could put it back again, that'll be great. Maybe I joined
Sure.
late, and so that part is not visible.
Sure, I'll just post it.
Shweta, I just wanted to just add a small thing.
Yes.
When I was referring to Krishna, and the whole message is that, cow should become part of your family. It's very important part of, producing the milk, and the whole process is that you must have a very intimate relationship with the cow. And that also influences the quality, the sattva guna, of the cow. But that is a little subtle. And today, since we were talking more on the scientific aspects, I didn't dwell much into that. But that is extremely important. And I'm glad that you brought that point. I mean, I missed to, elaborate on that.
And I think in our day and age, Dr. Rammanohar, like that is, I feel like these subtler aspects are so much more important, because when we were chatting earlier, you know, you had mentioned about how the lifestyle, everyone's lifestyle is so, you know, it's just really different these days. But it's like, so how can the body adjust to all these changes that we, through our modern day living habits, right? And I think the more the sattva guna is present in this ghee, it can help facilitate the body to adjust to all these, you know, kind of conditions as well. So I think that aspect of the education and knowledge is what's missing. You know, when we launched at Nama a few years ago, we were shocked that people didn't even know that there was a traditional way of making ghee. And this is at Nama, which is basically Ayurvedic practitioners and yoga teachers, etc. And it was you know, it was very shocking, but you know, that's why it made it even more important that what we're doing and kind of sharing in this world is critical. So yeah, so okay. If there are no any other comments, we just want to thank you. You can go ahead and mute yourself for any last comments. Once again, thank you all for being here, and I hope this was inspiring. First and foremost, that, like Dr. Rammanohar emphasized, let it begin with you. You know, hopefully you got some insight, some kick in the butt that will help you to change a daily habit, and so that you can keep to improve your own daily life and your own awareness, and be the light and the walking ghee lamp, they like to call it, in the world. So again, thank you so much all for being here. Yeah, keep in touch through the newsletters and through the website. We'll have more knowledge circles coming in the next few months. So just keep an eye out. Thank you so much. And Nakul, if you want to share anything.
I think we covered everything. Good morning to you. Good day to you, Rammanohar ji, and good night to folks here in the US.